Hey everybody, it's Becky. I am back with another organizing video for you guys. I'm constantly in a state of evaluating my house, what's working, what's not working, and over that course of doing that for years, I have picked up a couple tips along the way that have helped me, and I thought I would share them with you guys. So today's video is 7 organizing mistakes not to make. So the first thing, and it could be the most important, and I've talked about this in other organizational videos of mine, but the first tip is to not to forget to allow room for growth. So when you're organizing a space or a cabinet or a drawer or a closet, make sure that you leave room for growth. If you organize a bookshelf and you have every book perfectly organized and alphabetized and categorized, but you don't leave room for any more books, unless you plan on getting rid of some books when you purchase new ones, then you're not going to have anywhere to put the new books or the new clothes or whatever the situation may be. So make sure when you organize, you always leave a little bit of extra room for growth. Tip number 2 is to not be too influenced by other people, whether that be on Pinterest or even YouTube videos. If you've seen one of mine or one of somebody else's organizational videos and you think, wow, that's so pretty, or that looks so nice, or I wish I could do that with my closet, and you go out and you get all the stuff that that person may have used in the video or the Pinterest post. And then you get home and you try to force a round peg into a square hole. It doesn't always work for everybody's spaces. Everybody's a little bit different. And so you can be inspired by other people and by things you see on Pinterest and in magazines and on YouTube, but make sure that you don't get so inspired by that you lose sight of the fact that your space is different. Your space is probably not like anybody else's exactly, and it's not necessarily going to work 100% to do what somebody else has done and put it into your space. Tip number 3 of things not to do when you're organizing is not to tell your family the new system you've set up. And that can also mean not labeling things. You might know exactly where things go and where you want things to be put back, but if you don't tell your family or you label things where they can see where things go back, then it's going to be pretty much hindering any organizational progress you've made, because they might not put things back the way that you want them to be put back. Or they might not follow along with your new system of folding sheets and putting them a certain way in the closet, unless you show them and train them if they're children or whatever. Show them how you want things put back. Show them the system you've created. And that way you're more likely to have success of keeping things organized the way you want them when the whole family is involved and they know what's going on. Tip number 4 is don't be a hummingbird organizer. And I am so guilty of this. I think it's just because I see the big picture so much on things that when I'm working on a project, I get really tempted to go and start a bunch of other little things, because I'll see, oh, I need to work on my closet because when I went in there to get something for my other organizational project, I saw that this was out of its place and this doesn't work anymore in the closet. And so I might be tempted to go over there and work a little bit on that, and then I forgot, oh wait, no, I was doing the other thing. I gotta go back and do the other thing. And I'm just kind of flittering all over the house, doing little bits and pieces here and not really accomplishing anything. So as a recovering hummingbird organizer myself, I encourage you to finish all the projects you start before you move on to the next project. And sometimes you kind of have a little bit of dual organizing going on if it's a space that's connected to what you're organizing. Like in my case, when I organized my living room, when I did all my big cleaning and everything, I reorganized my DVD system, and so I had to make room in the garage, which had previously been organized for the DVD cases, so there was a little bit of tweaking there involved, but that to me is kind of related. But I'm talking about, like, if you're knee-deep in reorganizing your kitchen and then you totally get off on a tangent and start like organizing baby pictures or something like that that's not really related, and then you just end up with a bunch of things going on at once that really never get finished. So work really hard to make yourself finish a project you start before you start something else. What helps me to keep on track is I make a punch list. Just like when you move into a house, if you've moved into a new house, the contractor will say, make a punch list of like your first 30 days of things you see that need to be fixed or whatever in any room, each room, you know. And then you give them this big long list and they're supposed to go down and fix everything and check it off. I make a punch list for every room in my home when I'm reorganizing it. And so start to finish, what needs to be cleaned, what needs to be organized, what needs to be purchased, what needs to be sold, things I need to think about in my head, like if I need to look for ideas of a new, bedding set that I like, or if I need to find new curtains. All those things I need to do research for. Every aspect of that room's that project is on my punch list. And so having that on paper really helps me to see and prioritize and stay on track of what needs to be done in that room before I move on to something else. Now, if you're still really tempted to want to do 2 projects at once, maybe go ahead and maybe on your spare time work on the punch list for that next project that's coming up, and go ahead and get your list made of what needs to be done in that room or that space. But don't move on to that until you have finished the first project. Tip number 5 is to don't forget to shop your organizational bin stash before you go out into the stores to shop. Now again, I've done this before. Usually it's when I've seen a video or a Pinterest post and somebody has these great baskets that look so cute and they're so pretty and they have it look so nice, and so I go out and get those bins or want to go get those bins. And then I realize I have stuff pretty much already that I can use left over from other projects. I have 2 whole shelves in my garage that are devoted to nothing but organizational bins that are empty, that I can go to before I start a project and say, okay, what do I have? Do I have a bin to put all of my greeting cards in? Do I need a bin for gift wrap bows? Whatever type of bin or box or organizer that you need, I keep all those out in the garage, and I always go and look there first to see what I have before I think, okay, yes, now I need to go out and buy a new this or a new that. That saves you a lot of money, and it saves you a lot of running around. It's really linked back to tip number 2, which was not being so inspired by other people's posts that you are tempted to go out and get whatever they bought exactly. And if it doesn't work for your space, or maybe you already have something that you need that would work just as well, that you don't have to go out and spend money on. So that's just something to think about. Tip number 6 is don't forget to make a list of how you plan to use your new space once it's organized. So kind of like the punch list idea, but in this case, I sit down and think about what really belongs in this space. What do I want to be in there that maybe is not in there yet? So once I have that list and I have an idea of what needs to stay in the space and what new things maybe I want to put in or take out of the space, then I can go from there and figure out what bins am I going to need that are to purchase. Do I already have some bins that'll work in that space? I don't need to purchase those, and that really helps me stay on track with my budget, and then also just focusing on me and my personal space and not just what's going on Pinterest or YouTube. Tip number 7, and this is a big one, is don't be afraid to change it if it's not working. If you have set up a system and maybe it's beautiful and it would look great on a Pinterest board and other people are inspired by it, but if it's not working for you, don't be afraid to change it. I've talked about that in regard to our homeschool situation, like if a certain curriculum's not working, don't be afraid to change it. If you're on a fitness journey and whatever you're doing for your exercising is not working for you anymore, or not working for you at all, don't be afraid to change it or mix it up. Same thing with organization. Even if it used to work for you, maybe your lifestyle has changed. Maybe you have another child. Maybe you have moved and you have a smaller house. Maybe you have a bigger house. All these different situations of things that change in your life as time goes on. So things may not always work forever, and they may not work, even if it looks great. If it's not working for you and you've made a mistake and you realize that you're not going to put things back that way, or your family's not going to put things back that way, don't be afraid to change it. So those are my 7 tips for organizing mistakes not to make. I hope it was helpful. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and don't forget to subscribe if you're not already, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.